Ever wondered what invisible invaders might be lurking in your daily meals? Today we're diving into the world of nanoparticles and heavy metals in food. Picture this: minuscule particles, far smaller than a grain of sand, drifting undetected in your favorite foods. These are nanoparticles, and they're more common than you might think. Nanoparticles are tiny, often measuring less than 100 nanometers. To put that into perspective, a single strand of human hair is about 80,000 nanometers wide. These tiny particles can be found naturally in some foods, or they can be added intentionally for various reasons, such as enhancing color or increasing shelf life. But here's where it gets interesting. The Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, has already approved some nanotechnology-based products. So, you could be consuming nanoparticles in your food, perhaps even right now without even realizing it. These particles might be lurking in your milk, in your cereal, or even in your crackers, all under the guise of real ingredients. Now, let's shift gears to heavy metals. These are chemical elements that can be harmful to the human body in large quantities. We're talking about lead, arsenic, cadmium, and more. Just like nanoparticles, these heavy metals can find their way into our food, either naturally or through contamination. These heavy metals can have long-lasting effects on our bodies. They don't just cause side effects, they can stay in your body for years, sometimes indefinitely. And when they're combined with other chemicals in your body, the effects can be unpredictable and potentially harmful. So what does all this mean for you? Well, while nanoparticles and heavy metals are common in food, their long-term effects on our bodies are still largely unknown. This is why it's crucial for us to be aware of what we're eating and to make informed choices about our food. Unseen, these microscopic invaders are more common in our meals than we might think. But knowledge is power, and the more we know about these invisible invaders, the better equipped we'll be to make healthy choices. So let's continue the journey of understanding these tiny particles and their impact. Dive with me into the miniature world of nanoparticles. Imagine a speck so small it makes a grain of sand look like a mountain. Welcome to the world of nanoparticles, particles that are between 1 and 100 nanometers in size. That's about 50,000 times smaller than the width of a human hair. Nanoparticles come in various shapes and types, like spheres, rods, and capsules, and they are all around us. They're in the air we breathe, the clothes we wear, and yes, even the food we eat. These tiny particles are used in food for various purposes. They can enhance flavors, improve food texture, and even increase shelf life. From the creamy texture of your favorite ice cream to the vibrant color of your morning cereal, nanoparticles are hard at work. Now you might be wondering, are these tiny particles approved for use in food? The answer is yes. The Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, has approved the use of certain nanotechnology-based products in food. For instance, titanium dioxide, a nanoparticle, is often used in milk and other white foods to enhance their color and prolong their shelf life. But it's not just about making our food look and taste better. Nanoparticles also have potential health benefits. They can be used to deliver nutrients more efficiently, or to create smart food packaging that can detect spoilage or contamination. However, it's important to note that while the FDA has approved some nanotechnology-based products, the long-term effects of consuming nanoparticles are still being studied. Some research suggests that nanoparticles can cause oxidative stress responses, DNA damage, and protein denaturation. But the jury is still out, and more research is needed to fully understand the implications of nanoparticles in our food. So the next time you're enjoying a scoop of ice cream or a glass of milk, remember, you're not just consuming food, you're also partaking in a tiny bit of science. These minute particles, though invisible to our eyes, have a significant role to play in what we eat. What happens when these tiny particles interact with our bodies? Nanoparticles, the invisible specks in our food, are smaller than a strand of human hair, yet hold a world of possibilities. But as we delve deeper into this microscopic universe, we must ask, what happens when these infinitesimal particles meet the complex biology of our bodies? One potential reaction is oxidative stress response. Oxidative stress occurs when an imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants in our bodies tips the scale towards the radicals, leading to potential cell damage. Nanoparticles, with their enhanced reactivity due to their small size and large surface area, could exacerbate this imbalance, instigating oxidative stress. DNA, the blueprint of life, could also be at risk. Nanoparticles, due to their minute size, might interact with DNA, causing damage, mutations, and potentially leading to diseases. In fact, some studies suggest that certain types of nanoparticles can cause DNA strand breaks and chromosome aberrations, although research in this area is still in its infancy. And let's not forget proteins, the workhorses of our cells. Proteins could undergo denaturation, a process where their complex structure unravels, leading to loss of function. Nanoparticles, with their ability to interact at the molecular level, might instigate such changes, disrupting the normal functioning of proteins in our body. Yet despite these potential risks, there's no unified safety evaluation procedure for nanoparticles in food. Each country or region has its own approach, creating a patchwork of standards that leaves many questions unanswered. This lack of a cohesive policy is a cause for concern, as it leaves the door open for potential health risks to slip through the cracks. The tiny world of nanoparticles holds potential risks that are yet to be fully understood. As we continue to explore this minuscule universe, we must tread carefully, ensuring that our quest for innovation doesn't compromise our health and well-being. After all, when it comes to matters of health, it's often the smallest things that make the biggest difference. Now let's turn our attention to another set of silent invaders, the heavy metals. These are chemical elements that sneak their way into our environment and consequently our food and beverages. Their presence may seem harmless, but don't be deceived. They can be toxic to the human body. The most common culprits found in our food are lead, arsenic, and cadmium, but they're not alone. There's a whole gang of them hiding in the shadows, including cobalt, chromium, copper, and iron. So you may ask, what on earth are these heavy metals doing in our crackers, cereal, or baby food? Especially when these foods claim to be made from real ingredients. Well, here's the unsettling truth. These metals don't just have side effects, they have effects. Full stop. And these effects can linger inside the body for a long time, sometimes indefinitely. When these reactive elements mix with other chemicals in the body, they create a cocktail of unknown consequences. And this isn't just a one-off event, it's a continuous cycle, as more and more of these elements find their way into our food supply. And it's not just the heavy metals we need to be wary of. There's a new player in town, nanoparticles. The FDA has already given the green light to some nanotechnology-based products, expecting a significant increase in their use in drugs, devices, cosmetics, and even our food. For example, titanium dioxide is added to milk and other white foods to enhance their color and prolong their shelf life. But this particular metal is potent and versatile. It can interact with other elements in the body, affect your mood, and even cross the blood-brain barrier, a membrane designed to protect the brain from toxins. And the long-term effects? Well, that's still a mystery. The safety evaluation procedures for these particles are far from unified, especially for those used in food. The presence of these heavy metals in our food is more common than we might imagine. So, let's not turn a blind eye. Let's stay informed and stay vigilant. How do these heavy metals affect us and our health, you may wonder? The answer lies in their nature. Heavy metals such as lead, arsenic, and cadmium are chemical elements that can linger within our bodies for extended periods. This persistent presence can lead to a multitude of health complications. Take lead, for instance. It's a heavy metal that's notorious for its harmful effects on the nervous system. When ingested, it can interfere with the development and function of our brain and nerves. This is particularly alarming in the case of children, whose nervous systems are still developing. Arsenic, another common heavy metal, has been linked to a variety of health issues. Long-term exposure to arsenic in food and drink can lead to skin disorders and increase the risk of diabetes and certain types of cancer. Cadmium is another culprit. Found in certain foods, it can accumulate in our kidneys over time, leading to kidney disease. Cadmium also weakens our bones, making them more susceptible to fractures. Now let's consider the heavy metals less talked about. Cobalt, chromium, copper, and iron, for example. While these elements are essential to our bodies in small amounts, an excess can lead to toxicity. Too much cobalt could harm our hearts and kidneys. High levels of chromium could lead to lung cancer. An overload of copper might result in liver or kidney damage. And an excessive amount of iron could lead to conditions like hemochromatosis, which can damage organs. Such are the potential health effects of heavy metal consumption. It's not just about immediate side effects. These harmful elements can stay in our bodies, sometimes indefinitely causing damage over a long period. And remember, this isn't just about heavy metals. Nanoparticles in our food, recently implemented and approved by the FDA, carry their own risks. With little to no data available on their long-term effects, we're stepping into uncharted territory. The impact of these heavy metals on our health can be far-reaching and long-lasting. So, it's essential we continue this conversation, raising awareness and promoting safer food practices. Our little ones are not spared from these silent invaders. Let's take a moment and delve into the presence of heavy metals in children's food. The innocent-looking, brightly colored boxes of children's cereal or those jars of baby food may harbor an unseen danger. Heavy metals, like lead, arsenic and cadmium, have been found in a multitude of children's food products. Now you might wonder, why is this a cause for concern? After all, these metals are naturally occurring elements. Yes, they are, but when consumed in large quantities, they can be harmful, especially to children. Children's bodies are still growing, their brains are developing, and their internal organs are maturing. Their bodies are more susceptible to the toxic effects of these heavy metals. Lead, for instance, can cause developmental delays and learning difficulties in children. Arsenic has been linked to a decrease in intellectual function. Cadmium can affect kidney function, even at low levels of exposure. These are just a few examples of how these heavy metals can wreak havoc on a child's health. But it's not just about the immediate effects. These metals can stay in a child's body for a long time, sometimes indefinitely. Over time, they can accumulate and cause long-term health problems. Moreover, these metals can interact with other substances in the body, leading to a host of unknown effects. As alarming as this sounds, it's important not to panic. Awareness is the first step towards action. By knowing about these hidden dangers, we can make informed choices about the food we give our children. We can opt for fresh, unprocessed foods and limit the intake of processed foods that are more likely to contain these heavy metals. We can also demand better regulations and stricter safety standards from our food manufacturers and regulatory bodies. After all, our children's health and future are at stake. Our children, the most vulnerable, are at risk from these unseen invaders. Awareness is the first step towards change. Reflect on this for a moment. We've journeyed through the intricate world of nanoparticles and heavy metals in our food. Unseen yet ever-present, these particles and elements lurk within our meals, having potential impacts on our health that we're only beginning to understand. Consider the nanoparticles, minuscule yet mighty, already reviewed and approved by the FDA. They're in our milk, our cosmetics, our drugs. Titanium dioxide, a robust and versatile metal, is added for color and to increase shelf life. But what happens when it interacts with other elements in our bodies? What happens when it breaches the blood-brain barrier, the protective membrane shielding our brain from toxins in our blood? The answers are still elusive, the long-term effects largely unknown. Then there are the heavy metals, lead, arsenic, cadmium and others. They're in our crackers, our cereals, our baby foods. They enter our bodies and linger, sometimes indefinitely. The effects are not just side effects, but whole effects, altering our bodies in ways we cannot fully comprehend. The reality is clear. We need more research, more understanding. We need to recognize the potential dangers of these particles and elements and to push for more comprehensive safety evaluations. We need to question the purposes of these heavy metals in our food and the potential effects of the nanoparticles that pervade our everyday products. This isn't just about us. It's about our children, our loved ones, our future. It's about the food we consume and the world we live in. It's about making informed choices, about demanding transparency and accountability from those who produce and regulate our food. So let's take action, let's start conversations, ask questions and demand answers. Let's educate ourselves and others about these unseen invaders in our food. Let's be vigilant, for our health and the health of our loved ones depend on it. Only with knowledge and action can we protect ourselves and our loved ones from these unseen invaders.